How is it that students can scroll TikTok for hours, but you talk for 5 or 10 minutes in class and they just lose all ability to tune in? Why is this the case, you may ask? Well, I'll tell you. I think that a lot of it has to do with sometimes our lessons are just too long, too boring, and too outdated. I've seen this in my classroom a ton of times where something that used to work, it just doesn't work anymore. And if student engagement is what actually leads to student success, I have to figure out how do I get and keep my students' attention. But what if I told you that instead of just getting mad at this, teaching like TikTok will help your students to learn better and retain more? How, you may be asking? By using a concept called microlearning. So in this video, I'm gonna talk to you about how to take big lessons and break them down into bite-sized chunks that are gonna transform your teaching and help your students to learn more. Let's go. First, what is microlearning? This is a not so fancy term describing how we use short, focused learning sessions designed for maximum retention. The science behind this is pretty clear. Back in 2004, there was a study done that showed that students had an attention span of 2.4 minutes. Man, the old days when you could pay attention for 2.4 minutes. Flash forward to today, students have an attention span of about 47 seconds. And look, this is something that can just be aggravating, but the world is moving fast. I can either spend time lamenting
about the good old days of 2.4 seconds back there in 2004,
or I can just accept the reality for what it is, and I'm going to find ways to work with that. And we already see microlearning happening all the time, whether you're using platforms like Duolingo, YouTube tutorials. I know that I don't fix anything in my house without watching TikTok or YouTube. So real quick, drop a comment. What is the shortest lesson you've ever taught that actually worked? Go ahead and put it in the comments below. I really am interested in this. On to number 2. There's a lot of different ways to design a micro-learning lesson. But the first is you have to start with your objectives, right? So instead of looking at the American Revolution, we're instead going to look at things like the cause of the revolution, key battles in that revolution, or the impact on today's culture from that. It's instead of looking at a whole chapter of a textbook or a whole lesson plan, figuring out what do kids need to know and what if this was easy? So instead of just selling it like it is and serving up that entire chapter, doing the work of seeing what is essential. Then it's taking those essentials and figuring out how do I teach this in 5 to 10 minutes. So this isn't your whole lesson, right? But how are you communicating information or having students do something that takes no longer than 5 to 10 minutes? That in my class seems to be the sweet spot, because even if someone has to go to the bathroom or they ask to leave class and you say, hey, I just need to get through this, can I have 5 or 10 minutes? Most kids are gonna say, unless they really gotta go, and then just let them go. You don't want that mess on your hands. This is a great time to use a timer in your classroom. I either have used them where I put it on the board or I put it on a section of the board, so maybe the bottom corner of a PowerPoint slide, or just leave it running on my phone and then I know how much time is left. This helps to create urgency in your students and also allows you to remember how much time is left as well, because sometimes you get caught up and don't give kids enough time, or it goes on for too long and then you're just defeating the purpose of this whole idea anyway. Next idea under this umbrella of how we're designing these is to make it visually attractive and try to make it interactive. We've all made those slides with too many words that you have to read paragraphs of stuff and then you stand there looking at your slide, reading every single word that's on it and sounding like the guy from Ferris Bueller.
Adams.
Here.
Adamley.
Here.
Adamowski.
Instead, what words have to be on there? What graphics or images have to be on there? Could I just have an image and then explain what is happening in it? Now, PowerPoint and Google Slides have the ability to have templates and they have images, but a lot of them are whack. I prefer Canva. There's tons of good templates on Canva, and don't just look for ones that fit the teacher mold. I look at slide presentations on Canva that are from a number of different industries because sometimes those are a lot cooler looking, and I like the layout more for business stuff, let's say, sometimes, than I do for the ones that are created for education. And then instead of just explaining the facts and the figures and the statistics and all the regular stuff, connect it to a story. When doing microlearning, this is a great time to tell a story about the American Revolution, about Sir Isaac Newton, about William Golding or James Baldwin or whoever you're talking about in class. There have been studies done that show that students are 22% more likely to remember the facts when told through a story. That is incredible. So if you're teaching even math, how can I create a little micro lesson that has us learning fractions through pizza or through Lego, instead of just doing it the regular way. And then at the end of those lessons, I'll do things that oftentimes like a 1-question quiz, or I'll have kids type up an imaginary text that they're gonna send to a friend. Hey, you missed class today. Here's what we learned. In a nutshell, the American Revolution, and it's like 280 characters or less. And so as not to overwhelm you, think of this question. What's one part of your lesson you're going to teach next week that can be broken down into smaller lessons? And then don't overwhelm yourself. Take that one small piece that you broke off of a larger lesson and try this, see if it works. And when it does, you can expand from there. All right, number 3, I want to talk about real quick, best tools and platforms for microlearning. There's a ton of stuff out there available to us, and sometimes there's so much stuff that it causes almost a paralysis in educators because you're not sure what's the best move going to be. The only way you're going to learn is to really taste and see. Try stuff out, see if it works, and if it does, keep doing that. If it doesn't, move on to something else. Like I said, I've done everything from Google Slides to PowerPoint. I don't love their templates, but I do use Google Slides by integrating Canva into my Google Slides. I've had friends, especially in math and science areas, use Loom a lot of times for their classes, where they'll record really short lessons and then do voiceovers or screen sharing that serve as quick reminders for students to go back to if they don't understand something. Could use Edpuzzle, and this turns videos into interactive lessons that you can add questions to, and I'm going to talk about the dangers of that in just a second. You can use Quizzes or Kahoot or Blooket, and these are all great platforms, but I'm going to say this. Here's the one danger in this, is that sometimes certain schools are doing this too much. So when we started using Kahoot, it was this new exciting thing. Same thing as Blooket in our class. But over time, it loses its freshness. It becomes a thing that's just like another, they don't update the platforms that much. They don't make any new features. And so you're just using the same old tired idea. And so I encourage you to use your creativity in that. So one of the things that I would do in classes, I would often change the music for Kahoot. I turn the Kahoot music down. I put on my own 1970s game show music. I put on a suit coat and you grab my golden microphone and act like I'm a talk show host. You can add lights and sounds and buzzers and all kinds of things in your class and take that ordinary activity and turn it into something extraordinary. Now I'm going to give you 2 examples real quick of what this can look like in real life. I once worked with a buddy of mine, Mr. Diawara, who used to make his pre-class for his high school math class. He would record videos while he was just out doing stuff. And so I remember him once having one where he was at the car wash and they had a deal. And his problem was something about, he was standing in front of the car wash explaining to the students that if someone bought a monthly car wash pass and it saved them 20%, how much money were they saving each month if they got their car washed like once a week? And so here's Diawara with his phone out, recording himself like a selfie, and then getting this video and playing it back in class. The students had to focus in, had to pay attention. The video was only 3 minutes long. Recorded the video, the students had to do a problem based on the math that was mentioned in the video, and this allowed him time to connect with students, to take his attendance, and sort of force student engagement because he wasn't going to be able to say it again. Another way I've done this in class is by doing emoji exit tickets, where I will have students type out 3 emojis that are symbols of what we learned today, if they understood it, and how they're feeling after the lesson. I then pair that with students writing a sentence or 2 about those 3 emojis, explaining what those meant. And that can just be a fun and silly way for understanding you to get a feel of how your class is doing right now. Now, before we go, I want to talk about common concerns around this because folks always will ask me questions like, are students missing out on deeper learning? Can you do this for all of your subjects, or is it just for English class because I'm an English teacher? Or what if you don't have time to create all these micro lessons? First of all, kids do not miss out on deeper learning. What we're doing is using this as a supplement. It's not a replacement for your lessons. We use this sometimes to build foundational knowledge, right? A lot of kids don't understand the bigger concepts because they are missing something called base knowledge. And so we're building that so we can have these deeper discussions in a later time. If you don't have time to do this, that's completely understandable. But what I want you to think about is how can you take what you already have built and just break it into smaller, more bite-sized chunks? And there's some saying, how do you eat an elephant? By 1 bite at a time, which I don't even think cultures like eat elephants. So that's weird, but there's a joke there somewhere. I'm not. Anyway, number 3. Yes, this can be used for all subjects. I've seen teachers in all different subjects use this. So whether you're teaching art or math or music or English or anything else, just works for all of them. Quickly, I just want to remind you that if you're having trouble with coming up with lessons as a whole, right? Finding ways to engage your students, to bring them in, to have them understand, to lessen classroom management issues by building engagement and building student success. This year, I created a lesson planning workshop. I'm gonna put the link for that in the description below. It is the workshop around lesson planning that I wish existed when I started teaching. It'll give you back your time, your effort, your energy, and possibly your sanity. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And look, here's some other videos that YouTube has deemed worthy of your time to watch. That's it, gang. Peace.